Have you ever looked in the mirror and disliked what you saw? Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you tried, nothing seemed to go right in your life? Have you ever experienced that suffocating feeling of being trapped in a repeating cycle where insecurities and failures take over everything? This is the reality that many people face in silence, and it was exactly the way Hannah Lee lived for years. Before discovering the transformative power of the law of attraction and, most importantly, the power of a positive self-image, she saw herself as too small to deserve great achievements, as if she were destined to live in the shadow of her own fears. Hannah was a young Asian woman who had moved to the United States in search of new opportunities. The daughter of immigrants, she grew up in a modest home where her parents always told her she needed to study hard, work diligently, and strive to achieve a stable life. But even with dedication, she carried a sense of inadequacy within her. Since her teenage years, she had struggled with painful comparisons, with classmates who were prettier, more outgoing, or more successful, and with unrealistic beauty standards that made her feel invisible. With every step she took, it seemed she was never enough. At work, Hannah was recognized as hardworking but never as brilliant. Her shyness prevented her from standing out, presenting her ideas confidently, or applying for promotions. Whenever she saw someone advancing in their career, she thought, "That's not for me, I don't have what it takes." This belief, repeated daily, shaped her reality. She remained stagnant, stuck in the same position, with the same salary and no prospects. Her personal life was no different. Hannah struggled to connect deeply with people. She constantly feared not being accepted or interesting enough. In romantic relationships, she got involved with partners who reinforced her low self-esteem, partners who did not value her, who treated her as an option rather than a priority. And because she didn't believe she deserved more, she accepted it. There were days when Hannah simply didn't want to leave the house. Anxiety would take over, and she would look in the mirror with repulsion at her own reflection. The dark circles under her eyes, the messy hair, the extra pounds she believed she had, everything seemed proof that she wasn't good enough. It wasn't just physical aspects, it was how she saw herself inside. A young woman without sparkle, without strength, without a voice. But the most painful part was feeling that her life was passing before her eyes like a repeated film. Every day seemed the same. She would wake up early, take the same transportation, go to the same job, do the same tasks, return exhausted, have dinner alone, and go to bed with a sense of emptiness. Gradually, she began to believe that this was the life she would have forever. Have you ever felt that way? As if you were destined to live only on autopilot, with no prospect of change? That was the silent cry echoing inside Hannah. She saw her colleagues achieving trips, healthy relationships, and successful careers, and wondered, why not me? But immediately after, the automatic response would come, because you're not enough. This phrase, repeated mentally like a destructive mantra, formed the foundation of her negative self-image. To the outside world, Hannah was just another young woman trying to find herself. But inside, the weight was immense. Every rejection, every failure, every missed opportunity was like another brick in a wall separating her from her dreams. One evening, after another exhausting day at work, Hannah arrived home and sat on the sofa with the lights off. She had no energy to prepare dinner or even turn on the TV. The silence of the house seemed to echo even louder within her. At that moment, she realized how alone she felt. It wasn't just the absence of people around her, it was the lack of connection with herself. She had lost herself amid criticism, comparisons, and expectations. Her thoughts went back to her teenage years, when she still believed she could achieve great things. She remembered dreaming of working at a major company, traveling the world, and living a full and happy life. But now, those dreams seemed distant, almost impossible. Each day, her faith in herself diminished a little more. What Hannah didn't know at that moment was that all this emptiness would in fact become the starting point for her transformation. The discomfort she felt, that deep dissatisfaction with her own life, was a sign that something needed to change. But in that instant, she couldn't yet see it. To her, everything seemed lost. Her relationships were broken, her career stagnant, her self-esteem shattered. Deep down, she believed nothing would change because she didn't see the strength within herself to turn things around. But life has subtle ways of guiding us to the right path. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize that there is a ladder waiting to be climbed. Hannah hadn't yet discovered the law of attraction, nor did she know the power she carried in her own thoughts and feelings. But she was about to learn that the life she so desired would begin not with a promotion at work, nor with an ideal relationship, but with something far deeper: the way she saw herself in the mirror. And that would be the first step of her journey. Sometimes life places small signs along our path, but when we are immersed in insecurities and self-criticism, we fail to notice them immediately. That's exactly what happened with Hannah. She was in one of the most confusing moments of her life, with a heavy heart, feeling trapped in an endless cycle of frustration, when something seemingly simple opened a new door. It all began on a Saturday afternoon. Hannah had decided to go to a bookstore downtown, more to escape the suffocating silence of her apartment than for any other reason. She wandered among the shelves without much attention, scanning novels, biographies, and business books until something made her stop. It was a light blue book with golden letters that shone under the light. The title read, "The Power Within You." Hannah couldn't explain why that book drew her in. It was as if it had been placed there just for her. She picked up the copy, flipped through a few pages, and read scattered phrases. You attract what you believe you deserve. Your self-image is the reflection of your reality. Self-love is the key to transforming your life. These words struck her deeply. It wasn't the first time she had heard of positive thinking, but until then she had always considered the idea superficial, almost naive. Yet that afternoon, something changed. Perhaps because she was too tired of suffering, perhaps because a part of her still believed there was hope. Even without knowing exactly why, she decided to buy the book. In the following days, Hannah began reading it during the lonely nights in her apartment. Every page seemed to speak directly to her, as if the author knew exactly what was going on in her mind. The book explained the law of attraction, showing that our thoughts and feelings shape the reality we live. It also spoke about positive self-image, emphasizing that everything starts with how we see ourselves internally. At first, Hannah resisted. She thought, "This seems too good to be true. How could merely changing my thoughts transform my life? What if it doesn't work?" These doubts accompanied her through each chapter. Yet at the same time, something inside her said she had nothing to lose. After all, continuing to live as she had been was not an option. She remembered a striking phrase from the book: "The universe always responds to what you believe to be true." This phrase echoed in her mind as she looked in the mirror. For the first time, she realized how negative her thoughts were. She always saw herself as ugly, weak, incapable. She always believed she wasn't enough. And if what she was reading was true, perhaps it was precisely this distorted view of herself that was attracting all the failures in her life. This idea disturbed her profoundly. It was as if suddenly she realized she held the keys to the prison in which she had been living. Determined to test what she had learned, Hannah began following some of the exercises suggested in the book. The first was simple: write positive affirmations in a notebook and repeat them daily. At first, it felt ridiculous. Saying things like, "I am worthy of love," or "I deserve prosperity," sounded artificial, almost as if she were lying to herself. But still, she decided to continue. Another exercise was the practice of visualization. The book suggested closing her eyes and imagining in detail the life she wished to have. At first, Hannah found it difficult. Her mind kept returning to work worries, painful memories of failed relationships. But gradually, she managed to visualize a different version of herself: confident, smiling, living fully. This image moved her deeply. It was in this process that Hannah began to notice a pattern. Whenever she allowed herself to think positively, she felt a different lightness, a hope she hadn't felt in years. Small moments of joy appeared in her day, like receiving an unexpected compliment or being invited to lunch by a coworker. They were subtle signs, but enough to show that something was changing. Still, doubt persisted. Hannah was afraid of being deceived, of believing in something and then being disappointed again. How many times had she dreamed of a better life only to see her dreams collapse? Yet the book reinforced that transformation wouldn't come from outside, but from within. It wasn't just about wanting, it was about believing. And that word, believe, began to gain strength in her mind. One night, after another exhausting day, Hannah closed her eyes and thought about everything she had read. She decided she would give this process a real chance. She promised herself that for the next 30 days, she would fully commit to the practices of the law of attraction. She would write her affirmations, perform her visualizations, and above all, work to change the way she saw herself. It wouldn't be easy, she knew that. After all, these were years and years of negative beliefs and a distorted self-image. But for the first time, a spark of hope appeared. The first real test came the next day at work. Her boss asked her to present a report in a meeting. Normally, Hannah would have felt nervous and let the opportunity pass. But this time, she took a deep breath, remembered her affirmations, "I am confident, I am capable," and accepted the challenge. During the presentation, her voice still trembled, but she managed to convey her ideas clearly. When she finished, she received a sincere compliment from a colleague. It may seem like a small detail, but for Hannah, it was a huge victory. That night, she wrote in her notebook, "Today, I took the first step. Today, I began to believe that I can change." This small episode marked the beginning of a new phase in her life. There was still a long journey ahead, many doubts, relapses, and challenges. But Hannah felt that something different was happening. It was as if the universe had begun responding little by little to the changes in her energy. And more importantly than anything else, she began to realize that the true power was within her. Not in external circumstances, not in others' opinions, but in her own ability to love herself and see herself worthy of everything she desired. Her journey was only beginning. Have you ever noticed how small shifts in thought can completely change the way we experience the day? Sometimes it's not necessary for grand miracles to happen immediately. The true miracle begins within us, quietly, when we choose to see ourselves differently. This was exactly what Hannah Lee began to experience on her journey. After committing to practicing the exercises of the law of attraction for 30 days, she started noticing details she had previously ignored. Every morning, before leaving the house, she would write her affirmations. "I am enough. I deserve to be happy. I attract positive opportunities." At first, they still felt strange, like isolated phrases on a page. But as she repeated them, something inside her began to change. The mirror, which had once been a cruel enemy, became an ally. Instead of focusing on every detail she disliked about her appearance, Hannah began looking for things that made her feel good. A gentle smile, the subtle sparkle in her eyes, the way her hair caught the light. Small gestures of self-acceptance that, little by little, transformed her relationship with herself. At work, differences also began to emerge. Colleagues who had once seemed distant now showed more openness. Hannah realized that when she approached situations with a more positive attitude, people responded in kind. She no longer avoided conversations. She began sharing her ideas, albeit timidly, and was surprised to find that they were well received. However, this transformation did not come without challenges. On some days, old patterns tried to resurface. A single negative comment or a painful memory could trigger her mind to shout, "You're not capable, you'll never change." In those moments, Hannah felt the temptation to give up. But she remembered the promise she had made to herself, to give it a real chance, to persist even when it was difficult. And it was precisely this persistence that began to open new paths. One morning, while reviewing the notebook where she wrote her affirmations, Hannah noticed something different. The phrases no longer seemed artificial. She was truly beginning to believe them. With every word she wrote, she felt a stronger connection to herself. It was at that moment that she realized the importance of a positive self-image. It wasn't just about repeating pretty phrases, it was about rebuilding, brick by brick, the way she saw herself. This internal awakening brought a new perspective to everyday situations. Before, Hannah had viewed challenges as proof that she wasn't enough. Now she began to see them as opportunities to grow. When something went wrong, instead of blaming herself, she sought to learn. This shift in perspective lightened the burden she carried on her shoulders. One of the most memorable moments of this phase occurred during dinner with a childhood friend. As they talked, her friend said, "Hannah, you're different. I don't know how to explain it, but you seem lighter, more confident." These words touched Hannah deeply. For the first time, someone outside noticed the transformation happening within her, and that motivated her even more to continue. Gradually, the emptiness she felt during lonely nights began to be filled, not with superficial relationships or fleeting distractions, but with a new relationship with herself. She rediscovered hobbies she had abandoned, like drawing and listening to classical music. She allowed herself moments of simple pleasure without guilt. She learned to appreciate silence, which had once been suffocating, but now became a space for inner reconnection. Another exercise from the book that she began practicing seriously was gratitude. Every night, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. At first, they were small things: a warm cup of coffee, a message from a colleague, the sunset seen through the bus window. But over time, she noticed her list growing larger each day. This practice radically changed the way she viewed life. Before, Hannah only saw what was missing. Now she learned to value what she already had. And this shift in focus not only brought more joy, but also began attracting better situations. It was as if the universe was responding to this new energy. A clear example happened when she received an unexpected message from a former college classmate. This friend worked at a marketing company and mentioned an open position. She encouraged Hannah to apply. Normally, she would have dismissed the idea immediately, thinking she wasn't qualified enough. But this time, she took a deep breath, remembered her affirmations, and decided to try. She prepared her resume, submitted her application, and, to her surprise, was called for an interview. During the process, she still felt the usual nervousness, but she held on to the new image she was building of herself: a capable, prepared, confident woman. Even without knowing the outcome, the mere act of trying represented a victory. These small steps were like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Hannah began to understand that she didn't need to change everything at once. She just needed to align her thoughts and feelings a little more each day. The universe would take care of the rest. Yet, the most transformative changes were not external, but internal. What had once been a heart full of fear now overflowed with hope. What had once been a mind dominated by criticism now began cultivating words of encouragement. What had once been a view of herself as worthless now became an image of dignity and self-love. This awakening was not an end in itself, but a beginning. Hannah would still face tests, still need to deal with old wounds, but she was no longer the same. She had discovered that true change begins in the quiet of the mind, in the moment we choose to believe in who we really are. And, little by little, her new reality was about to blossom.
Days passed, and for Hannah, each morning no longer felt like before. Previously, she would wake with a mind weighed down by worries, comparisons, and self-criticism. Now, there was a new atmosphere in her room. When the sunlight streamed through the window and gently touched her face, she no longer saw just another day like any other. She felt as if life had prepared something special for her, even if she didn't yet know exactly what it was. Hannah had made the law of attraction not just a technique, but a lifestyle. Every day upon waking, she wrote in her notebook 3 things she was grateful for. Whether small or large, she simply allowed herself to acknowledge what was already present in her life. Sometimes it was the smell of fresh coffee, a colleague's smile at work, or even the courage to look in the mirror and see beauty where once there were only criticisms. This simple habit was rebuilding her self-image brick by brick. At first, the changes seemed subtle. People began treating her differently, with more respect and even a certain curiosity. It was as if her energy had shifted and everyone around her started to notice. A coworker who had almost never spoken to her began asking for advice on small things. A client in the office spontaneously complimented her smile. These small validations, which she would have ignored or even rejected before, now became signs that something new was flourishing. Each day, Hannah saw herself growing more confident. It wasn't arrogant confidence meant to prove something to the world, but a quiet, almost silent confidence that came simply from believing in herself. When walking through the streets of Seoul, she no longer looked at the ground. Her gaze was lifted, open to the horizon. And curiously, the more she opened herself to the world, the more the world seemed to open doors for her. One of the first remarkable events was almost unexpected. Hannah had long dreamed of working on graphic design projects, but had never felt good enough to try. One day, while organizing papers in the office, her boss mentioned that they needed someone to help with a visual presentation. Without much thought, Hannah volunteered. Inside, her heart raced, almost afraid that she was taking too big a risk. But something inside her said, "This is the moment." She worked on the presentation like never before. She not only applied her technical skills, but also infused every detail with the positive energy she had been cultivating. When the project was presented, her boss was surprised and praised her talent in front of the entire team. For Hannah, this moment was not just about professional recognition. It was confirmation that by changing her self-image, she was finally paving the way to live her dreams. This experience ignited a flame within her. Hannah began writing bolder affirmations in her notebook. They were no longer just about confidence or self-love, but also about prosperity, success, and opportunities. She allowed herself to imagine a future where she would live fully, connected to what she truly loved. She visualized herself working on creative projects, traveling to new places, and above all, feeling at peace with herself. The universe, as always, responded. One day, while leaving a cafe, Hannah bumped into an old school friend. They hadn't seen each other in years. The conversation, which began with memories of the past, led to an unexpected opportunity. This friend was working at a digital marketing startup and mentioned they needed someone with design skills. "Would you be interested, Hannah?" she asked. Hannah's heart raced. It was as if the universe had heard exactly what she had been asking for and placed the answer right in front of her. In the following days, she did the interview and, to her surprise, was hired. This represented not just a new job, but the beginning of a new phase in her life. Looking back, Hannah realized that it had all begun with a simple act of self-love. Before, she wouldn't have even dared to apply for something like that. But now, her new energy attracted growth opportunities. This transformation also began reflecting in other areas. Her relationship with her family became lighter. Where there had been arguments and judgments, there was now more understanding and empathy. Hannah understood that by changing how she saw herself, she also changed how she related to others. There were nights when, lying in bed, she would close her eyes and feel a mixture of gratitude and admiration. It's true, she thought, the universe really responds. She remembered the emptiness she had felt months ago and marveled at how far she had come. But, like every journey of transformation, there were challenges. Some days, old insecurities would whisper that perhaps everything was just luck. Yet now, Hannah had tools. Instead of yielding to doubt, she returned to her practices: writing, visualization, gratitude. And, like a muscle strengthened by training, her faith grew stronger. One special event marked this period in an unforgettable way. During a team meeting at the startup, Hannah was invited to lead a visual identity project for an important client.
In the past, she would have declined, citing lack of preparation, but this time she accepted with confidence. When the work was completed, not only did the client praise it, but they also recommended the startup to other companies. The recognition brought greater visibility, and internally, Hannah was seen as a key part of that success. This moment wasn't just about work. It symbolized that her transformation was complete on a deeper level. Hannah not only believed in herself, but now had concrete proof that her new inner state was reflected in the external world. As the days passed, she became an inspiration to others. Colleagues began asking about her secret, her unique energy, her confident posture. Hannah would smile and silently remember the path she had walked, from the darkness of self-criticism to the brilliance of a new life. But deep down, she knew this was just one stage. The universe still had much more to offer. And, as she wrote a new affirmation in her notebook, "I am worthy of everything I desire, and the universe conspires in my favor," Hannah felt that she was about to experience something even greater, something that would definitively confirm the power of the law of attraction in her life. As Hannah Lee progressed on her journey, she began to notice something surprising. It wasn't just small changes that were happening, but increasingly clear signs that her new energy was shaping her reality. It was as if the universe had aligned with her intentions, responding precisely to the vibration she was sending out. It all began subtly, yet noticeably. One day, while walking through her neighborhood, she realized that situations that used to frustrate or make her anxious now seemed effortless. Traffic no longer irritated her. She found parking spots easily. Small details that had once seemed random now showed signs of synchronicity. Hannah began to wonder whether it was mere coincidence or if there really was a connection between her thoughts and the world around her. At work, the transformation intensified. The visual identity project she had led had been a success, and as a result, opened doors to opportunities she had never imagined. An international company became interested in her work, offering a freelance project that would put her in contact with professionals from different countries. The offer was not just financial, it was also a chance for growth, recognition, and learning. Hannah, who had previously doubted her own abilities, felt a flutter in her stomach. It was the same sensation she had felt when applying for jobs in the past, but this time it was different. There was confidence, clarity, and above all, faith. She accepted the project enthusiastically and, over the following weeks, delivered impeccable work, earning praise and, more importantly, the sense that she was finally on the right path. At the same time, her personal life began to transform in surprising ways. Hannah had also practiced the law of attraction regarding relationships. Previously, she had been involved with people who did not value her essence. Now she sought alignment with someone who reflected her new state of being. And, as expected, the universe responded. During a digital design workshop, Hannah met Alex, a talented professional with a positive outlook and a worldview similar to hers. The connection between them was immediate. There was no rush, no excessive expectation, just genuine harmony. Long conversations, laughter, mutual support. Each meeting seemed to reinforce the idea that she was attracting what she truly deserved. This internal and external alignment brought something even deeper, a sense of emotional empowerment. Hannah no longer depended on external validation to feel complete. Every achievement, every recognition, every healthy relationship that emerged was a natural consequence of her new state of consciousness, not a desperate need for approval. One deeply memorable moment of this phase occurred during a meeting with the startup's board. Hannah was presenting a bold proposal, something she would never have dared to do before. At first, she felt that familiar flutter in her stomach, but she remembered her affirmations. "I am capable. I deserve to be heard. My ideas are valuable." The presentation was a success. All the directors approved her proposal, and as a result, Hannah received an unexpected promotion, with a salary increase and greater autonomy to lead projects. She left the meeting emotional, feeling that every step she had taken in practicing the law of attraction was being tangibly rewarded. These external achievements, however, were not the pinnacle of her transformation. The most remarkable change was internal, permeating every aspect of her life. Hannah had learned that her reality was a direct reflection of how she saw and felt about herself. By nurturing self-love, gratitude, and confidence, the universe responded harmoniously. Hannah also began to feel inspired to share her experience with others. Close friends noticed her changed posture, her joy and serenity. Some asked how she had managed to overcome old fears and insecurities, and Hannah, with humility, began explaining the power of the law of attraction and the importance of a positive self-image. She realized that by telling her story, she not only helped others find inspiration, but also reinforced her own belief. It was as if every word she spoke strengthened her new reality. Indeed, the more she aligned with positive thoughts, the more opportunities appeared unexpectedly. One of the most exciting moments of this phase was when Hannah received an invitation to speak at a personal development seminar. She had never imagined herself on stage, in front of dozens of people sharing her life experience. But the law of attraction had placed this opportunity in her path. As she stepped onto the stage, she felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, but when she began to speak, each word flowed naturally. The audience responded warmly, absorbing every story. People approached her after the talk to thank her and say that their own lives were about to change. For Hannah, this moment was proof that her transformation was not only individual, but also had the power to inspire and impact others. The next day, while reviewing her notes, Hannah realized something significant. The law of attraction was not just about getting what she wanted, but about becoming someone who naturally attracts what she desires. It was a process of self-transformation, and every external result reflected the internal work she had done. Of course, as with every journey of growth, challenges remained. Not every day was perfect. Moments of doubt, insecurity, and old patterns tried to resurface. However, Hannah now possessed powerful tools to handle them: conscious breathing, affirmations, visualizations, and above all, unwavering faith. Then came the event that solidified her belief. One of the startup's largest international clients showed interest in a major project, something that could transform the company and elevate Hannah's career to another level. When she received the call confirming that her proposal had been chosen, she felt such an intense emotion that she had to sit down. Tears welled up, not from surprise, but from deep gratitude. Everything that had once seemed impossible was now happening concretely and tangibly. Hannah understood in that moment that what had once seemed a distant dream, the life she had always wanted, full of recognition, love, and purpose, was becoming reality because she had learned to love herself, trust herself, and align her thoughts and emotions with what she wanted to attract. These external achievements, however, were not the pinnacle of her transformation. The most remarkable change was internal, permeating every aspect of her life. Hannah had learned that her reality was a direct reflection of how she saw and felt about herself. By nurturing self-love, gratitude, and confidence, the universe responded harmoniously. Hannah also began to feel inspired to share her experience with others. Close friends noticed her changed posture, her joy, and serenity. Some asked how she had managed to overcome old fears and insecurities, and Hannah, with humility, began explaining the power of the law of attraction and the importance of a positive self-image. She realized that by telling her story, she not only helped others find inspiration, but also reinforced her own belief. It was as if every word she spoke strengthened her new reality. Indeed, the more she aligned with positive thoughts, the more opportunities appeared unexpectedly. One of the most exciting moments of this phase was when Hannah received an invitation to speak at a personal development seminar. She had never imagined herself on stage, in front of dozens of people, sharing her life experience. But the law of attraction had placed this opportunity in her path. As she stepped onto the stage, she felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, but when she began to speak, each word flowed naturally. The audience responded warmly, absorbing every story. People approached her after the talk to thank her and say that their own lives were about to change. For Hannah, this moment was proof that her transformation was not only individual, but also had the power to inspire and impact others. The next day, while reviewing her notes, Hannah realized something significant. The law of attraction was not just about getting what she wanted, but about becoming someone who naturally attracts what she desires. It was a process of self-transformation, and every external result reflected the internal work she had done. Of course, as with every journey of growth, challenges remained. Not every day was perfect. Moments of doubt, insecurity, and old patterns tried to resurface. However, Hannah now possessed powerful tools to handle them: conscious breathing, affirmations, visualizations, and above all, unwavering faith. Then came the event that solidified her belief. One of the startup's largest international clients showed interest in a major project, something that could transform the company and elevate Hannah's career to another level. When she received the call confirming that her proposal had been chosen, she felt such an intense emotion that she had to sit down. Tears welled up, not from surprise, but from deep gratitude. Everything that had once seemed impossible was now happening concretely and tangibly. Hannah understood in that moment that what had once seemed a distant dream, the life she had always wanted, full of recognition, love, and purpose, was becoming reality because she had learned to love herself, trust herself, and align her thoughts and emotions with what she wanted to attract. What had once been despair and frustration had transformed into confidence and serenity. The emptiness of lonely nights had been filled with purpose and gratitude. And with every step she took, Hannah knew she was only beginning the potential of her own life. The universe had responded, but it still had more to show. And Hannah was ready to receive it, with an open heart and awakened mind.
Hannah Lee's transformation was not limited to external opportunities that arose in her life. In fact, the most powerful changes were happening within her. After months of daily practice of the law of attraction through affirmations, visualizations, and gratitude, she began to experience a profound shift, something that no professional success or external recognition could replace: unconditional self-love. Previously, Hannah spent much of her time comparing herself to others, feeling inadequate and insecure. But now, when she looked in the mirror, she saw someone worthy of love and respect. It was not just about physical appearance or social status. It was about accepting every part of herself, with virtues, flaws, achievements, and mistakes, and realizing that every aspect contributed to her uniqueness. This internal awakening began to manifest in small daily actions. When someone offered a compliment, she no longer felt embarrassed or doubted their sincerity. Instead, she smiled, thanked them, and allowed herself to receive recognition. Each simple gesture, once ignored, now became confirmation of the deep change occurring within her. At work, the impact was immediate. Hannah continued to succeed in projects, but her presence conveyed something no one could teach: genuine confidence. Colleagues who once saw her as shy and insecure now sought her guidance, admiring her ability to remain calm and clear even in challenging situations. Self-love also transformed her personal relationships. Her connection with Alex, which had initially been based only on shared interests, became deeper. Hannah realized that she could only build true relationships if she was aligned with herself. She began communicating her needs clearly, establishing healthy boundaries, and cultivating empathy without losing her essence. This shift brought more harmony and intimacy than she had ever experienced. Another remarkable aspect was her awareness of synchronicity in her life. Hannah began noticing that every step taken in alignment with her desires was accompanied by almost magical coincidences: unexpected messages, opportunities appearing out of nowhere, meetings that seemed orchestrated by the universe. Each event reinforced her belief that the law of attraction worked subtly but powerfully when thoughts and emotions were consistent. There were days when old doubts returned. Sometimes Hannah wondered, will this last? what if it all disappears suddenly? In those moments, she turned to visualization, closing her eyes and imagining herself living fully, surrounded by achievements and love. This practice not only dispelled fear, but also reinforced her inner confidence, reminding her that true transformation comes from within and cannot be taken away by external circumstances. A pivotal event cemented this change in her mind and heart. The startup she worked for was preparing for a major international design event. Hannah was invited to lead the entire visual presentation, a project that required not only technical skills, but also courage, creativity, and leadership. In the past, she would have been terrified by such responsibility. Now, however, she took a deep breath, connected with her internal state of confidence, and began planning every detail. During the presentation, every slide, every color choice, every word reflected her positive energy. The result exceeded expectations. The client approved not only the project, but also proposed a long-term partnership, ensuring stability and future opportunities for the team and for Hannah. The most surprising part, however, was what happened after the event. Hannah realized she no longer needed to strive for acceptance or recognition. Her confidence and natural self-acceptance attracted acknowledgement and opportunities effortlessly. Every act of self-love, every conscious choice to value herself directly reflected in the quality of her life. She began applying the same philosophy in other areas. In daily life, when facing challenges, her reactions were no longer fear or anxiety, but curiosity and openness. If something didn't go as expected, she viewed it as a lesson, understanding that the energy she placed in her thoughts determined the universe's response. Hannah also noticed the impact of her transformation on those around her. Close friends commented on the change in her aura, in the energy she radiated. Colleagues felt inspired by her calm and centered demeanor. Even strangers, in casual interactions, responded differently, as if drawn to her silent confidence and authenticity. It was during this period that Hannah had a profound realization. The law of attraction did not work merely as a tool to obtain things or achieve external goals. Its true power lay in transforming oneself, and that transformation inevitably reflected in the world. The more she cultivated self-love, gratitude, and confidence, the more her reality aligned with her deepest desires. Hannah began writing about this experience in her journal, recording every detail of her transformation. She described not only external achievements, but also internal feelings, insights, and moments of clarity. Each word she wrote was a reminder that she was responsible for her own reality, and that the universe responds precisely to this energy. One exercise that most impacted her journey was visualizing herself living her dream life. She imagined not only achieving goals, but also feeling the emotional fulfillment of each success. The power of this exercise manifested practically. New opportunities appeared, the right people came into her life, doors opened, all naturally, without excessive effort. Hannah also realized that the law of attraction worked best when combined with action. Positive thinking and visualization were essential, but putting energy and intention into concrete actions created a bridge between the internal and external world. Every decision, every gesture, every consciously chosen word reinforced her ability to manifest the life she desired. The pinnacle of this phase came on a quiet weekend when Hannah decided to revisit the bookstore where it had all begun. She picked up the book she had bought months ago and leafed through the pages with a smile. Every sentence that had once felt distant now resonated clearly in her life. She realized that she had not only followed the book's teachings, but had internalized these principles so deeply that her transformation had become part of her essence. She closed the book and took a deep breath, feeling gratitude, not just for what she had achieved, but for the person she had become. Hannah Lee was no longer just someone who dreamed of change. She had become the conscious creator of her reality, someone who understands that life is shaped by self-love, gratitude, and clear intention. The universe had responded, opportunities had arisen, relationships had transformed, And most importantly, Hannah had discovered the key that had always been within her: to believe in herself and love herself unconditionally. She knew challenges would still come, that life would continue to test her faith and patience, but she also knew she now possessed inner tools to handle any situation. And above all, she knew that any desire she held would be received and manifested in alignment with the energy she placed in her thoughts and feelings. Hannah smiled at the sky that moment, feeling fulfilled. Every tear of doubt she had shed, every fearful night, every past failure, now became fuel for her journey of self-transformation. She had finally understood that the greatest change anyone can experience begins within, and everything around is merely a reflection of that inner power. With the awakening of self-love and self-confidence, Hannah Lee began to notice that life was much more fluid than she had ever imagined. Every morning brought small surprises, synchronicities that seemed like tiny miracles. A coffee that used to take a long time to be served now arrived quickly at her table. A colleague who had always ignored her offered help spontaneously. Unexpected messages appeared at just the right moment. Everything indicated that the universe was conspiring in her favor, and Hannah couldn't have been more attentive to these signs. She began to jot down each occurrence, noticing patterns and coincidences that had previously gone unnoticed. One day, while walking down a busy street in Seoul, Hannah noticed a billboard with the message, "Everything you desire is within your reach." She smiled, feeling that this was a direct confirmation that she was on the right path. It wasn't coincidence, it was the language of the universe, communicating subtly but powerfully. At work, Hannah's life continued to thrive. The international project she was leading was progressing rapidly, and new clients were beginning to appear, bringing even more challenging proposals. Each opportunity required skills, creativity, and courage, but Hannah now felt prepared. The self-confidence she had cultivated internally was reflected in every decision, presentation, and professional interaction. One day, she received an unexpected email. A renowned design studio, globally known for its innovative projects, invited her to collaborate on a large-scale campaign. The project promised not only professional recognition, but also the chance to expand her influence and impact in the design world. Hannah felt a mix of excitement and gratitude. The law of attraction was indeed transforming dreams into reality. But it wasn't just professional opportunities that were manifesting. Hannah also began experiencing deeply personal moments of manifestation. During a leisure trip, she met an old friend she hadn't seen in years. The conversation flowed naturally, and surprisingly, the friend shared an opportunity that aligned perfectly with Hannah's interests. Once again, the universe showed clear signs that her energy was attracting the right situations. Hannah began to realize that manifestation did not happen merely by wishing or visualizing, but through clarity of intention and the emotional state she was in. Every positive thought, every feeling of gratitude and trust acted like a magnet, attracting experiences that reflected exactly her new vibration. A particularly significant moment reinforced her faith even further. Hannah was invited to a design conference in Europe, a prestigious event that brought together professionals from around the world. During the trip, she met influential people who admired her work, and new connections arose, bringing partnerships and possibilities she had never imagined. With each conversation, each encounter, Hannah felt that the law of attraction was guiding not only her career, but also her personal relationships and future opportunities. Even amidst so many manifestations, Hannah knew that maintaining internal consistency was essential. There were days when doubt tried to creep in, reminding her of old fears and insecurities. But she now had powerful tools: affirmations, visualizations, gratitude, and connection with her inner self. Whenever these thoughts arose, she took a deep breath, realigned her energy, and continued moving forward with confidence. Hannah also began noticing changes in how people perceived her. Colleagues, friends, and even strangers felt her positive and reliable presence. People were drawn to her energy, seeking her opinion and advice.
She became a source of inspiration, not just for her achievements, but for the way she radiated confidence, joy, and authenticity. On one of the most memorable days of this phase, Hannah received an invitation to present her work at a design fair in Asia. It was an opportunity that years earlier would have seemed impossible. As she stepped onto the stage to speak about her journey and ideas, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Every word she spoke reflected not only technical knowledge, but the life experience she had gained through practicing the law of attraction and self-love. The audience responded enthusiastically, and after the presentation, several professionals approached her to congratulate her and request future collaborations. For Hannah, it was not just recognition, but confirmation that her internal transformation was consistently attracting tangible results. Even the simplest events began to reflect her new vibration. Small, everyday kindnesses, unexpected encounters, and even seemingly trivial coincidences confirmed that the universe was aligned with her intentions. Hannah realized that the power of manifestation was not limited to great achievements. It permeated every detail of life when lived with awareness, gratitude, and self-love. Hannah also began inspiring others directly. Close friends started asking about her methods, energy, and positive attitude. She shared her routine of affirmations, visualizations, and gratitude, explaining how these practices had transformed not only her life, but also her perception of herself and the world around her. One of the most emotional events of this phase involved Alex. Their relationship continued to flourish, and now both were experiencing mutual support, growth, and shared joy. Hannah realized that by aligning with her energy and focusing on self-love, she had attracted a partner who reflected her values and deepest desires. Another remarkable sign happened unexpectedly. During a walk in the park, Hannah encountered an elderly woman who smiled at her and said, "You have such beautiful energy. Keep it up and wonderful things will come to you." Hannah felt a deep emotion. It was a simple but powerful confirmation that the world responds to the energy one radiates. Each day, Hannah reinforced her affirmations with even more intention and clarity. They were not just words repeated mechanically, they were statements filled with emotion and conviction. She visualized the future she desired, feeling the joy of already living it, as if it were a present reality. This constant practice amplified her manifestation ability, bringing each desire closer to fulfillment. During a work trip, Hannah also realized that the universe offered continuous learning. Obstacles arose, but they were seen as opportunities for growth and refinement. Each challenge was met with calm, confidence, and an inner certainty that she had everything needed to overcome any situation. Hannah Lee had reached a point where she deeply understood that the universe not only responds to desires, but also rewards those who cultivate a high vibration, maintain focus, gratitude, and, most importantly, self-love. She no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. Her life was a reflection of her own energy and choices. And so, every sign, opportunity, and unexpected encounter became part of a continuous, inspiring, and real story of transformation. Hannah realized that there was no limit to what she could attract and manifest as long as she remained true to herself and the energy she cultivated.
Hannah Lee had already experienced extraordinary changes in her life. Her career was flourishing, her personal relationship had transformed, and self-love had become the foundation of all her decisions. But there was something even deeper she was about to experience, a level of fulfillment that would show definitively that the law of attraction was not just theory, but a real force capable of transforming lives when practiced with consistency and true intention. It all began on a sunny morning when Hannah woke up with a feeling of lightness and expectation. She didn't know exactly what was coming, but she felt deep in her being that the universe had something special in store for her. As she prepared for the day, she recited her affirmations as usual. "I am worthy of everything I desire. My life is filled with abundance, love, and opportunities. Every step I take brings me closer to my best self." The sense of alignment was palpable. At work, things seemed even more fluid than before. A new project was proposed, something that combined her passions and skills in a unique way.
Hannah realized that in every challenge she faced, there was a hidden lesson, and every victory was a direct reflection of the energy she put into her thoughts and feelings. But the most surprising manifestation occurred in her personal life. Alex, her partner, had planned a surprise, but what Hannah didn't expect was that it would directly reflect the impact of the law of attraction on her journey. During a candlelit dinner, Alex revealed that he was moving to the same city as Hannah, creating the perfect opportunity to strengthen their connection even further. Hannah's emotion was intense, as it was not merely a materialized desire, but a reflection of harmony, love, and alignment between two energies vibrating together. While celebrating this manifestation, Hannah realized something even deeper: the feeling of unwavering gratitude. Every step, every decision, every moment lived was intertwined in a tapestry of experiences that clearly showed that life responded to what she radiated. She remembered all the nights she had doubted herself, every fear and insecurity she had felt, and understood that each difficulty had been necessary to strengthen her faith and confidence. The feeling of fulfillment intensified when Hannah decided to share her story more broadly. She created an online workshop to teach the principles of the law of attraction, combining her personal experience with practical techniques of visualization, affirmations, and gratitude. People from different parts of the world began to register, eager to learn from her. Every testimonial received reinforced Hannah's transformation, showing that her impact was not limited to her own life but extended to inspire and empower others. During one of these sessions, a participant shared something that deeply moved Hannah. She said, "I started applying your guidance, and within a few days I felt significant changes. The most incredible part was realizing that I was creating my own reality. It's liberating." Hannah felt tears of joy. It was proof that the law of attraction worked, and that when practiced with dedication and self-love, it could generate real and lasting transformations. During this period, Hannah also realized that manifestation was not just about specific desires or tangible goals. It was about creating a life aligned with her essence, living according to her values, and connecting with the universe consciously. Each day became an opportunity to reaffirm her intentions, cultivate positive feelings, and expand her awareness. An unexpected event consolidated all of this. Hannah was invited to an international panel on personal development, bringing together renowned speakers and people from around the world. As she stepped onto the stage, she felt intense emotion but also complete clarity. Everything she had experienced, every challenge, every practice, every manifestation had prepared the ground for that moment. She spoke sincerely, recounting her journey from doubt and insecurity to self-love and conscious manifestation of her desires. The audience responded warmly. People applauded, smiled, and became emotional. After the talk, many approached to share how Hannah's story had inspired profound changes in their own lives. Every word of thanks, every look of admiration reinforced for Hannah that the universe responds when we align ourselves with love, gratitude, and clarity. Hannah also experienced simple yet meaningful moments. One day, walking through a park, she felt a connection so deep with everything around her that she realized there was no separation between herself and the universe. Every tree, every ray of sunlight, every breeze seemed to communicate a silent message. You are exactly where you should be. Keep trusting, keep loving, keep creating. This feeling of unity and fulfillment brought Hannah a powerful realization. Manifestation is merely a reflection of internal transformation. When we cultivate self-confidence, self-love, and gratitude, everything around us aligns harmoniously, fluidly, and abundantly. Opportunities, relationships, and achievements are just external manifestations of what already exists within us. Hannah felt that she had reached a point where she could look back and recognize how much she had evolved. She remembered the insecure young woman who doubted her worth, the lonely nights, and the missed opportunities. And now, looking at her present life, she understood that every past experience had been essential to reach fulfillment. She knew the journey would continue, for life is a constant flow of growth and learning. But in that moment, Hannah felt complete gratitude. The life she had always desired, full of love, recognition, success, and joy, was becoming a reality, and she had become the conscious creator of it all. And then Hannah realized something she wanted to share with everyone. True transformation does not depend on luck, coincidence, or external factors. It depends on a positive self-image, internal alignment, and unwavering faith in the power of the universe. She smiled, feeling her heart filled with emotion, and decided to record this moment to inspire others. Hannah knew her story was not unique. It was an example that anyone in any circumstance can transform their life when they choose to align with self-love, gratitude, and clear intention. And so, Hannah Lee concluded this phase of her journey with a feeling of total fulfillment. Life had responded in an extraordinary way, reflecting the energy she cultivated internally. Every dream, every desire, every manifestation was living proof that the law of attraction works when practiced with consistency, faith, and love. If you followed Hannah's journey this far, leave the word fulfillment in the comments to show you watched until the end. Also share which part of the story touched you the most and how you feel inspired to apply the law of attraction in your own life. Remember, you too can transform your reality when you choose to believe in yourself and the power of the universe.